It's a bit unbelievable that between the global pandemic and travel bans, we still managed to travel to 5 countries this year and come in on budget.
But we did learn a lot about budgeting, so stick around until the end of the video to find out what we're doing differently in 2021.
If you're new around here, I'm Gillian.
And I'm Stephanie. We're a couple who retired early, sold everything we owned, and now we travel the world full time. So if you're looking for more on early retirement and slow travel, we have a new video every week.
To everyone who's been following us, thanks for coming back for another episode here in Istanbul. Don't forget to tune in next week when we'll share all our experiences and costs from the past month in Turkey.
2020 was a very challenging year to be a traveler, but despite the pandemic, we were determined to keep up with our plan to explore the world slowly. And even though we've had to adjust our plans along the way, sometimes even on a weekly basis, for the most part, it's worked out.
We've been able to visit a couple of the countries on our bucket list, and of course, we've been tracking all of our costs along the way. So today we're going to share all the details of what we spent for a full year of travel. We're talking about flights, accommodations, entertainment, and more.
And we'll be sharing which categories came within budget and which ones totally blew our budget and then some.
Let's start with the category where things went the most sideways: international transportation. When we first planned our 2020 journey, we saw ourselves slowly traveling across Europe. We planned to spend a month or 2 in each country, then hop on a train to get to the next one.
Of course, nothing happened the way we planned. Here's how our journey actually looked.
We started the year in Fethiye, a small city on the coast of Turkey. A month later, we flew from Fethiye through Istanbul to our final destination of Rome.
We were still in Italy when the pandemic hit, and we found ourselves in the middle of a strict national lockdown. After sheltering in place for a month, we took an emergency flight from Milan through Frankfurt to our hometown of Toronto.
When Europe began to reopen in August, we then made our way from Toronto to Athens.
After 2 months in Greece, we flew from Athens to Dubrovnik in Croatia.
Finally, our last flight of the year was from Zagreb, Croatia to Istanbul, where we are today.
We planned to spend $1,400 for all of our international transportation in 2020. It was a relatively small amount because we envisioned ourselves taking train rides across Eastern Europe, not flying across the Atlantic a couple times. Another area of our budget where we spent way more than expected was our accommodations. So we planned to spend an average of about $950 each month, and who knows, maybe that would have worked out if we had stuck to the low-cost countries.
What we actually spent was an average just under $1,300 per month. And there were 2 reasons why we went over budget. First, we ended up spending more time than expected in high-cost countries like Canada and Italy. And second, we realized we simply had to spend a bit more, or occasionally a lot more, to get what we were looking for in an Airbnb.
Now, $1,300 was the average, but the range between highest and lowest was quite huge. Since I was the one who did all the math, I'm gonna ask Gillian, what's your guess on the city where we spent the least on a per night basis and the city where we spent the most?
Okay, I think the most is pretty obvious. I think Toronto would be the one. For least, maybe Yanina, Greece. I know we got a great deal there.
Right and wrong. So the lowest price per night was in Kaş, Turkey, where we spent just $20 per night to be there during the low season. And the highest price was in Toronto at $57 a night. So it's your call if you want a view of the Mediterranean for $20 a night or a view of a very average neighborhood in Toronto for $57.
For entertainment, we surprised ourselves with an average monthly budget of just $63. This includes all the activities and attractions in our destinations, plus our regular monthly subscriptions like Netflix and Spotify.
Our most expensive activities were both in Dubrovnik, so that says a little something about Dubrovnik. Gillian had a morning of scuba diving for $80, and then we both did the Old Town Wall Walk for $62.
Generally, we kept the cost of entertainment fairly low by not relying on guided tours. Instead, we used a lot of free audio tours like the ones from Rick Steves, and also ones we found in an app called Izzy Travel.
We also like to do a lot of activities that just don't cost any money, like when we toured the local street art in Athens or our epic hikes along the turquoise coast.
And if you want to know how we plan our travel budget for any destination, you can check out our free download in the description.
Now we're getting into one of the very best aspects of travel, which is food. And stay with us till the end because we are going to share how we'll be budgeting differently in 2021.
We love eating well. It's one of our absolute passions in life. And for that reason, we always expect to spend a generous amount on food wherever we go.
We take a very flexible approach with our groceries and dining out. So when we're in low cost of living countries, we might be eating out at least once a day. And then in high cost countries, we do a lot of cooking at home with very good quality ingredients.
There was one country where we could eat as much as we wanted to and we still didn't come close to hitting our budget. And that country was
Turkey. We were here in January and couldn't help but come back in December to finish out the year. So during our visit to Fethiye on the Turquoise Coast, we spent just $400 on food, including dining out and groceries. And where did we spend the most on food?
Toronto.
That's right. That's where we paid the most for accommodations, and it's also where we spent the most on food at over $900. And that was mostly just groceries. So there was basically no dining out because of the lockdown.
So we planned to spend $800 each month, and in fact we came just about on budget with an average of $807.
Our next category is local transportation. So this is any transportation that we take within a country. In 2020, this included getting around by train in Florence, it included public transit in Athens, car rental in Dubrovnik, and subway rides in Toronto.
On average, we spent $163 per month, but there was a lot of variation based on our destination and circumstances. So when we were in lockdown in Lake Como, we used our feet to get around and spent $0 on transportation.
Meanwhile, in Greece, we rented a car for a whole month, which allowed us to explore some amazing sites in northern Greece. So the total cost was $635, and a surprising amount of that was made up of road tolls.
We have some other regular costs from our life on the road that we share every month. The first one is data, which averaged $14 for our global data from FlexiRoam. This was a lot less than we expected because we found we could get pretty far on the Wi-Fi included in our Airbnbs. And for health insurance, we averaged $129 a month. The next category is out-of-pocket medical and dental care. So whenever we talk to fellow nomads and travelers, a topic that always comes up is how to manage routine medical visits on the road.
We were able to get all of our routine checkups done in a variety of countries, and the total bill came in at just under $800. So this included full physical, multiple dental cleanings, all with great standards of care, plus we even had a couple COVID tests.
So the grand total for all of these categories is just over $33,000, which is right within our budget, even with all the extra spending on flights and accommodations. And we do have all of this broken down in a blog post, so be sure to check that out. The link is in the description.
The only things we haven't included in the total are personal expenses like clothes and technology, gifts and donations, our storage locker, which we finally emptied this year, and any expenses related to our dogs.
So what are we doing differently with our budget in 2021? Well, first, we're planning to budget more for international flights. With COVID as the new reality, our destinations will be dictated by which countries are welcoming Canadians. And they may not be neighboring countries that we can easily get to by trains or ferries. So that means more travel by plane than we would ideally plan.
We're also increasing our monthly accommodations budget to $1,250, and we're even willing to go higher as needed. We've learned along the way that we really like to be comfortable in our Airbnb, and we're definitely willing to pay more for a better space with all the amenities that we look for.
Finally, we are putting aside a much larger emergency fund than we had when we first set off in 2020. We blew through our fund pretty quickly last year and ended up dipping into our personal allowances to cover all the unexpected costs.
So if you want more on how we budget for long-term travel, you can check out our free budget download by clicking on the link right here.